Hey everybody, I want to do a little refresher on the div tags that we talked about the other day. So I want to start a new page just to give you a little thing. We're going to do a few different things with the div tags. This one video is going to really focus on just what is a div tag, what does it do for us, and then we're going to use the div tags to build actually a more interesting site than we've done in the past. So I started this out. I actually decided that I wanted to do something around the world in math would be my title, but since I'm doing this demo, I don't have too much time. I don't want to sit down and type up tons and tons of text. So I wanted to show you about a site. A lot of times this is something that people do when they want to work on a layout, but they don't have the copy yet from the business. So there's a site called htmlipsum.com. There's a lot of these different sites. This is one that I found that I sort of like. And if you look at this, it actually has lots of blocks of text. And there's kind of this classic piece of text. It's called lorem ipsum. It's just sort of it's like a philosophy book in Latin. So if you guys check this out, I'm going to put in an unordered list. I put in a long paragraph. So here's a long paragraph and unordered list. And let's do a medium paragraph. Okay. And we'll put in like a couple of medium paragraphs here at the end. This is nice. This gives us a bunch of text on our page. If we actually save this and run it, you can see actually, hey, we got some nice little blocks of text that we can play around with. So that's a nice little shortcut if you want to focus on your layout if you don't know or have all your content later on. So I might put in some headings just to start and say, first section, and down here I might put in another heading that says second section. Okay, so now without too much work, we actually have a lot to go on. So later on, what I'll do is I'll polish this up, but this is kind of why we really like working with div tags. So instead of just having a heading saying first section, second section, I actually want to say like this heading and this paragraph and this list, they all sort of go together. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a div tag. Now, just like all of our tags that we've used before, it's going to have a opening and a closing tag. Now, something I like to do, if I use a div tag, I've just like wrapped a bunch of things inside of it. Like I'm going to be able to, change the background color for all of these, and be relatively specific with things. But visually, it's a little hard to tell where everything is. So what I do is I highlight all my stuff and I hit the Tab key, and I notice how I sort of made an indent in. So now I can tell, like I can see my div tags really easily, and I can tell what is inside these div tags. This will be really useful later on. Now, the other thing that we might want to do, or we kind of have to do, is that we're going to have lots of different divisions, right? So what I can do is I can say, hey, my ID is first section. Now, what this does is it says later on, when I'm doing my styling, is I can refer to this specific combination, okay, everything that's trapped inside this div tag, I can actually refer to it very specifically by this idea of first section, okay? That's going to give me some really cool things I can do. One, I can kind of do the whole section as one, but I could also go in and say, hey, I want the paragraphs in first section to behave a certain way, or the headings in first section to behave a certain way. And we'll get into the CSS in that in a minute. So I'm going to use that same idea. I'm going to do div ID equals second section. And I'm going to wrap the rest of this thing down here. Now, remember, we kind of keep the body and the HTML away. And then, hey, I want to make sure that these are indented properly, so I'm going to highlight them and hit tab over. And if you notice, if I save this and I take a look at it again, you'll notice that nothing changed, right? I mean, I put those headings in before, but I mean, nothing changed by wrapping the div tags around it. So that's a real important thing to remember. It's just an organizing principle. It's sort of like drawing a little magic box around things to help you remember that they're together. So the next thing we want to do is we might want to do a little bit of style. So let's remember how we can style particular div sections. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the hashtag or pound sign. I call it pound, but now it's really been sort of turned into hashtag because of Twitter. So here we're going to go. We're going to hashtag and we're going to do first section. Okay. Now, I'm going to put in some brackets here, and I can do all the things that I did before. Well, I like having the color be white for my text. I might have the background color be, I don't know, let's have it be some sort of blue, okay, maybe navy, dark blue, okay. And maybe I want the section to not be so huge, so I might say, hey, the width is going to be, I don't know, well, let's have the width be like 500 pixels. Okay, so if I save this and take a look at it, oh, hey, look at this. I just managed to do every single thing inside this text, okay, and I made it look kind of nice, okay. So I shrunk it down, it doesn't take up the whole screen anymore, and I did, a little bit of style. Now, suppose, and you can see, hey, this is the original look, here is the new look. Now notice it did some text wrapping, right? So it's a little taller, but it's still got all the same information in it. Okay? So there it goes. You can kind of see how that change worked. So now, hey, I can set the width. I can go in and change my margins, right? So I might want my margin left to be, oh, well, let's say we wanted to center it. We could do what we did before and give our margins percentage values, right? So when we did that, what it sort of tried to do is it tried to put it the same distance from either side of the screen, okay? And so we have a little bit of buffer. Didn't quite center it as perfectly as I wanted, but it did center it a little bit, which is good. Oh, actually, part of the reason of that is probably because we haven't taken a look at, well, what's going on with the body right now. So I'm going to make the body a different color just so you can kind of see it. Let's just make this kind of a, I don't know, we'll make it yellow for now. And you can see actually we've sort of layered, when I refresh this, notice this, that, hey, the body is kind of the whole page, right? We made a little zone inside the body that we have our own, special treatment of that we can do. So, that really stands out as something, is that, okay, the body is going to be sort of the whole thing. A lot of times we're going to sort of make a container that's going to look like sort of the bulk of our page, so that we can space things sort of accordingly. So I'm going to switch down, and instead of doing margin left, this percentage, I'm actually just going to say, hey, I want 10 pixels on either side. To me, that seems okay, because I'm gonna play around and do some things. So hey, that gave me a nice little buffer. And we played around with padding a little bit, but if I do the padding, in this case, you guys remember, hey, cool, my padding makes all the text sort of, stand out on the inside. So I put a little tagging. Hooray. Now, I can kind of repeat this, okay, for the second section, okay? I'm going to come down here, and now I can say, well, hey, second section, and I'm going to have it all, for now, I'm going to have everything be the same, except for I want the background color to be pink, and I want the write-on color to be navy, because dark blue on pink sounds exciting. That's a color scheme. So if you could see that, hey, we have a nice little thing, and notice how they kind of butt up right against each other. That's because we didn't put any bottom margin in there, right? So we could put some top and bottom margin in there, and that would sort of space them out, but we won't worry about that for quite yet. Now, one of the cool things is that we sort of made virtual little boxes, okay? So if I actually go in here and use an attribute, we're going to call it float, and I'm going to float it to the left of the screen. So what does that actually mean? So kind of watch how this is. Okay, actually we'll leave this one. This is kind of the before, and then we'll reload this one. And you can see the after. Oops, did I save it? Oh, well, let me put it in both of these and make sure that there we go. I accidentally forgot to put it in the second one. So you can see what happened here real quickly is by putting it on the float on the left-hand side, what that's letting the pink box over here do is instead of basically my section starting on a new line like how a paragraph does or a list item or something like that, what's going on is that it's actually saying, well, if there's room, try to squeeze me in on the previous line. Okay? So that's really nice because you can see if there's room on the screen, boom, it pops right up there. Okay? And we get nice little side-by-side layouts. Okay? So this is going to come in really handy. I hope some of you guys can kind of see already. When we get into a little bit more of an advanced layout, we'll be able to really take advantage of this to make some cool setups. So last thing I want to talk about, and we'll do a little more of that in the next section, is suppose I really want my my heading to have some special properties. Okay, so in the first section I want to change the colors and things that I use. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to first section. Okay, and kind of like what we did with the unordered lists, I'm going to specify the tag that I want to modify. So by putting this here, I can say inside first section, right? So this is kind of my ID area. I'm going to say look at things inside the first section that are called H1. So in this case, I can change the background color to white, and I'm going to change the text color back to black. Okay. Now, when I refresh this, okay, it made a nice little stripe. Oh, maybe I want to center that heading. Some of you guys found this out. We can do text, align, center. Okay, so I do this, and what am I going to end up with? I end up with a very nice centered heading over my little zone. Okay, so again, we can use all the CSS tags we want. Anything's going to be go. We can do the pictures. We can do anything we've played around with. But hey, now I got this great control over every element of my HTML. Okay, so play around with that a little bit. Okay, you want to style the lists. You want to make all of a sudden. We talked a little bit about having our fancy lists, right? Now we can make the lists one style in section 1 and another style in section 2. We really have a lot of different ability there. So stay tuned for the next video. We'll talk a little bit more about fun div tag stuff. Thanks.